Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, I'm John and I'm back with another video on my channel, Musings of a Marine. It's a Monday here in the Detroit area and I am off work today because it is the birthday of Martin Luther King, the famous civil rights activist here in the United States. And to honor him, we celebrate his birthday as a national holiday. I've never had this day off before, but because the union workers where I work have it off in their contract, well, so do the rest of us too. So I made out that way. But that's not really what my video is going to be about today. This is something totally different, and it's just something that really aggravates me to no end, and I'm going to do a little venting today. A lot of people say that they wouldn't want to retire in the Philippines because it gets so hot over there, okay? Well, let me tell you what I'm dealing with here today in my home near Detroit. It is today bitterly cold outside. The high today will be 8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 13 degrees Celsius, okay? My furnace is not acting properly today. I woke up to a cold house. The burner does ignite on the furnace, but it doesn't stay lit long enough for the furnace to correctly heat the house up. Probably this is happening because the furnace is too small for this house, or so I've been told by someone who actually repaired it once. So that's what I'm dealing with today. Thankfully, I don't have to work out in this cold, but tomorrow I do. My wife, Diana, when she gets off of work, is going to stop and see if she can find a mask for me to wear for the bitter cold tomorrow. Now, there's always the argument of what would you rather deal with, the heat or the cold? And a lot of people will say, well, the cold, because if it gets cold, you can always put on more clothing. Okay, well, it's not always that simple. Sometimes you can't do your job if you put on more clothing. In a cold day working outside tomorrow, hey, I could put on 2 pairs of gloves. But there's one problem with that. I use this little hand-operated touch computer. It doesn't work with a glove on your hand. It has to have skin touch. My thumb must touch that screen. So I actually have a glove in my van at work that has the thumb cut off so I can use it. But it's a thin glove, and if I have to put on a heavy glove over it, then I'm not even going to be able to perform my job. So those are some things you should think about when you're talking about how you can just put on more layers, right? Also, there's the thing about your arthritis hurting more, which, of course, that's going to happen with me. My hands will get a little numb, especially the tips of my fingers when it's cold like this. Your body getting chapped up. I can't just put chapstick on my hands or my lips, I should say. That's not good enough. I got to put straight Vaseline on my lips and on my hands too. Lotion is not enough. Otherwise, the tips of my fingers will crack like a paper cut. And let me tell you, that's more painful than my hip replacement or the left shoulder when I had the torn rotator cuff repaired. This is the stuff you have to deal with when it gets cold out like this, and I'm sick of it. You know, I've said in my last video, I'm going to retire this year. And I'm not working another winter out in this cold. I'm done with it. And it's stuff like today that really just aggravates you when you got to deal with this, when you wake up to a cold house because your furnace doesn't want to work right. And of course, if I was to call a furnace repairman today, they're probably busy as heck. They're going to charge you extra to come out and look at it, you know, because it is a national holiday. You know, you have to ask yourself that if you are in a situation where you don't have to deal with this, why would you? Okay? I tell people, spare me the global warming nonsense, okay? We call it climate change now because the temperature, of the earth, if it's getting warmer, we're not feeling it here in the United States. There's a deep freeze all over the country. It's getting down into the 30s in Florida, for heaven's sake. In Florida, southern Florida, not just the northern part. Watching the football games yesterday, snow all over the field. I've seen football games in Dallas, Texas, where it's covered in snow. Okay? So, it gets cold here. I know a lot of Filipinos, when they immigrate out of the Philippines, they go to Canada and have to deal with this. And even worse than what I'm dealing with sometimes. But do they really like it? I don't think so. They just want to make more money, help their families, live a little bit more luxurious lifestyle. But this is the compromise that they have to put up with. I don't want to put up with it anymore, and I don't have to. You see, I've been to the Philippines in all kinds of different weather scenarios. I've been in the Philippines in December and January where the weather was most agreeable. I've been there in April and May when it's most hot. Last trip was July and August where we had rain. It's the rainy season. I've been in there in October and November where it's still a little hot but definitely cooled off. I've mentioned the story before that one of the reasons my wife and I bought a condo in Iloilo in Mega World, and the main reason, was to beat the heat. Place is air conditioned, got a swimming pool, couple floors down. You want to cool off, you're all set. So a lot of people say, well, I can't move to the Philippines. It's too hot out there. People who have never been to the Philippines will ask me, well, what's the weather like over there? And I say, well, it's like Florida on steroids. Most people who've been to Florida, they know it gets very hot and humid there in our summer months here in the U.S. I tell them the Philippines is like that 10 months out of the year. But if you have the money, you can beat that. For Filipinos, I feel sorry for them. Yeah, maybe they wouldn't mind a little bit of cold weather up there in Canada somewhere like Calgary or whatever. But with cold comes problems. My dad used to always say, nothing works right when it's cold. The cars get lousier gas mileage. Sometimes they have a harder time getting started. The gas pumps at the gas station pump slower, so you're standing out in the cold even longer. All right? People don't stop and think about these things when they say, oh, you can just wear more layers. Yeah, okay. Takes me an extra 5 minutes or more to get ready for work now because of all the extra lotion and Vaseline I got to put on my body and the extra clothes and the boots instead of just slipping on some sneakers. I don't get enough sleep as it is, and now I got to get up 10 minutes earlier every morning because I got to deal with this. Okay? It's a lot more than just putting on more clothes, okay? Where the Philippines, most places you can wear t-shirt, shorts, and sandals 365 days a year. Doesn't take you but a minute to get dressed, and there's not all that heavy clothing weighing you down while you're trying to do your job. Okay? Now, I know that doesn't apply to Filipinos, but this video is about myself and other people, expats that live in the Philippines or Westerners like me who are thinking about doing it or want to do it. And the fact of the matter is when you go to the Philippines, there are ways to beat this heat. And you just got to be prepared for it. Yeah, I told the story before about how when I went to Baguio, these two ladies met up with my buddies and I, and they offered to show us around the city. And the lady was walking around with a umbrella, and it was sunny out. And I'm like, well, why does she need this umbrella? But sure enough, 2 o'clock, it started raining, just like it did every other day we were there. So she was prepared for it. So I've been through the rain. I've been, last time we were in Iloilo, we stepped out of our yard, opened the gate to ankle deep water on our street. But The tide went out and the water went with it. You deal with it. At least it wasn't cold. At least my arthritis isn't hurting. At least I don't have to worry about a furnace not working properly. Don't even need one over there. So, this stuff just gets so frustrating. So if I was to retire in Iloilo, which I hope to do, I've got the condo to stay cool. In those really, really hot months, we can stay more there. When my nephew Pito and his wife Carmel got married, they got married in May of all months. And the hottest time of the year over there. And my brother-in-law Romeo and his wife Joy and son Raphael, they went there and they stayed in our condo to try and beat the heat. So sure glad we bought that condo and it got used for that purpose, because that was the whole main reason behind it. Instead of living in Lucky Homes in Harrow, living right there in the heart of the city where it's much cooler. Got the air-conditioned mall right across the street if it's hot out. Why do you think they're building malls in the Philippines still? You know, why is it they're always busy? There's always plenty of people in there. They're smart. They want to stay out of the heat, and that's a way to do it. So there's always a way to beat the heat. And you don't have to put on a bunch of extra layers of clothing to do it. If you have the money, like most expats do, they can find ways to get around that. Yeah, it's always going to be humid over there. When I did the Simbang with Diana and my nephew Baba, we'd get up there and walk to the church for 4:30 Mass. It wasn't hot outside, but sure enough, by the time I got to church, back of my shirt was soaking wet from sweat. The humidity is always going to be there. You're in the tropics. Deal with it. But I wasn't hot, and it didn't make me feel uncomfortable either. What makes me feel uncomfortable is being cold in a house that's 66 degrees Fahrenheit right now, when I'd prefer it to be 70, but my furnace can't get it there. So now I got an electric heater in the bathroom and one here on the kitchen table to try and keep it warmer in the house. And I don't know if I should call a repairman or not, because sometimes this furnace fixes itself. I don't know how it does that, but it does. But it's just getting overworked right now. And you don't have to deal with that in the Philippines. You know, there's plenty of ways to get around it. You know, there's a lot of vloggers and YouTube who live in the Philippines that, you know, you hear them say, you know, they live in Dumaguete, but they don't really live in Dumaguete. They live in Valencia, a more an elevated area where it's not as hot there. You could live in Iloilo, but you could also have a place up in, say, Leon, up in the mountains where it's cooler. I remember my nephew Pito and his wife Carmel again having pictures taken up there in the mountains. I think it was for their engagement pictures, and saying how cold it was up there. So it can get cold in the Philippines depending on where you're at. Okay, that's why people go to resorts in Baguio and Tagaytay. It's elevated. So there are places you can go if you have the money, and the thing of it is my wife and I are in a situation where we could do that when the time comes. And to me, the time can't come soon enough. I am sick of this. It's not good, and it's not necessary to live this way when you don't have to. So, you know, we talk about, you know, the people in the Philippines will get filled with all this information about global warming and all this. I remember when I was there in 2010, it was so hot out. You know, Bob and I were in a swimming pool almost every day. We were over there for my father-in-law's wake. Got up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit there on top of all the humidity. So yeah, we were either in the mall or in a swimming pool a lot of the time. And you know, you just do what you got to do. I didn't have coffee in the morning. It was too hot. The first week I was there, it was so hot, I'd get up and I'd drink a nice cold Coca-Cola with my breakfast instead of hot coffee. But eventually I adjusted. You know, that's just the way it goes. But there's things that you can do, and I don't have to worry about getting all chapped up over there, and I don't have to worry about having all these winter clothes to wear and take all this extra time to get dressed just so I can go outside. You know, burning extra gas in your car because you got a remote start it to warm it up. Yeah, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that in Canada, they're only allowing you to use a remote start on your car and run it for 5 minutes. Well, if it's cold like this, guess what? Your car is not going to warm up in 5 minutes. It takes closer to 15. My wife's car, it only runs for 10 minutes, so she has to do it again just to make sure it's warm. Okay? So, you know, they're also worried about burning gas, and yet there's so much oil underneath the ground in Canada and the U.S., it's unbelievable. Okay? But we're not going to talk about that. The fact of the matter is you don't have to deal with this. And this is just the day I want to vent about it because of the situation I'm in. And the fact that I got to go out and actually work in this tomorrow and Wednesday. It's going to start to warm up a little bit Thursday, and then we'll get back to normal. But right now, this country's in a deep freeze. You know, it's easy for somebody to sell the Philippines on global warming, you know, when the weather gets that hot. And it gets that hot here in the U.S. too. But it's not always like that. The weather constantly changes, and right now, it's cold. And I am tired of dealing with it. So, anyways, that's the subject, the rant that I wanted to have today. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in. God bless. Thank you for the subscribers I've gained lately and the views on my videos. I appreciate that very, very much. And we'll talk to you next time. Semper Fi.